Hi beautiful, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I am here to share with you what I think are the top 10 hottest palettes you can find at Sephora during the Sephora Spring Savings event this year. Palettes are one of my favorite subjects here on my channel, so I do have my Sephora recommendations video, but I like to make a separate video on palettes alone. Now, I looked at every single palette Sephora is carrying at the moment, and I found what I consider the hottest to get throughout the sale, which encompasses a couple of limitations. For example, I'm not going to mention any of my Pat McGrath Mothership palettes in today's video, even though Sephora does carry them, and you can get them with a discount throughout the Sephora Savings event. But Pat McGrath usually has much better discounts on her website for her palettes than Sephora does. So I don't consider that those are going to be the hottest at Sephora throughout the sale because you can get them at a better discount on the Pat McGrath website. I'm putting palettes in today's video that are being discounted for the very first time, or that are from brands that rarely go on sale, and this is one of the opportunities in which you can get them with a discounted price. Anyways, the Sephora Savings event starts on the 5th and ends on the 15th. If you're a Rouge, you can get 20% off your purchases throughout that time. If you're a VIB, you get 15% off. If you're an insider, you get 10% off. And the VIB and insider dates are from April 9th to April 15th. The code this time around is YAYSAVE, the way it's spelled right here on the screen. And if you guys appreciate my input and my Sephora recommendations, the best way you can help me and my channel is by shopping the links I'm leaving you down below in the description box. So I'm going to share with you what I think are the hottest palettes at Sephora this time around, and I have the list with the links in the description box below. Whenever you shop from those links, it helps out my channel. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. The most obvious, hottest palette that you can get at Sephora throughout the savings event this time around is one of the newest ones to launch, which is this one right here from Makeup by Mario. This is the Makeup by Mario Master Mattes, the Neutrals eyeshadow palette right here, which I am wearing today, along with a shimmer from some other palette I'll mention later. So this palette has fabulous, soft, creamy, matte formulas that blend beautifully, that build beautifully. I did a video with this one when it first came out where I reviewed it. I showed you swatches. I believe I did 3 different looks with it. So if you haven't seen that video, definitely check it out. And my overall thoughts were that this is a really good palette to have and to own. I do also think that majority of us have very similar shades to these in our collections already, but it truly depends on your makeup collection at home and what you want. You might be someone who uses neutrals for work or school on a daily basis, and something like this is very convenient for you, or somebody who owns a lot of single shimmers, in which case this is also very convenient because you can combine these beautiful neutral matte shades with single shimmer shades like I did today to create a huge variety of looks. Formula wise, I love this one. It performs beautifully. It has a stunning neutral to cool toned color story, and it is one of the hottest palettes to get at Sephora right now because for the first time you can get it with a bit of a discount. Now, while the Mario palette only has neutral to cool tone shades, there is another all matte palette alternative that also has warmer shades in it that you can also get with the discount, and you might like having more choices even better. I don't think this is the first time this next one is going to be part of the Sephora Savings event. It probably was already part of the Sephora Savings event during fall time, but Patrick Ta doesn't go on sale often. So this is definitely still a really hot palette to grab at Sephora this time around. I'm talking about the Major Dimensions 3 palette from Patrick Ta. As you can see, in addition to having neutral to cool tone shades right here at the bottom, this one has warmer tone shades at the top, and also in addition to having a beautiful array of matte powder shades, this one has 2 cream ones right up here. I honestly cannot tell you whether I have a preference as to which one I like better. It definitely is always good to have a bit more variety, and I think the Patrick Ta palette has a bit more variety because you can find some warmer shades in here. But as far as the formulas are concerned and how they perform, I honestly like them both the exact same. You can go back and compare my review videos on both of these palettes and draw up your own conclusion. I did do a video with this one as well where I did a couple of different looks, one warm look, one cool tone look, and every time I have picked up this palette to use it, I have really enjoyed the experience. If you're into all matte palettes, you can definitely consider grabbing one of these, but I don't think you need them both. And as I said, it's not often that you can get Patricia eyeshadows with a discount, so this is definitely a good chance to get your hands on this palette as well. Another beautiful recent launch that is going to be part of the savings event for the very first time is the new Blooming Romance palette, which you can check out right here. This palette is half creams, half powders, and it has this beautiful romantic color story. The shades are not necessarily the most pigmented, but they are beautiful and buildable, and you can definitely build them up to get the desired level of intensity. I did of course already review this one as well and did a beautiful look with it. If I do say so myself, I really loved the look I created in that video, and I used a lot of the shades that come in this palette because I really wanted to test out as much of the formula as I possibly could. This palette is nice and versatile too because it's not just an eyeshadow palette but also a cheek palette or a lip palette. It's a multi-use palette that you can use in a bunch of different areas of your face, eyes, lips, cheeks, etc. And I had a lot of fun playing with this one. I have a lot of fun whenever I play with these Danessa Myricks palettes because I try and think of different ways in which I could use them. If you're into rosy tones, this one has every single shade of rose you could possibly want in your collection. And I told you guys when I first reviewed this one to wait for the Sephora savings event because it was coming very soon. So now that it's about to be here, you can get it with a discount rather than paying full price for it. I'm trying to get through all of the newer ones first. Now, when it comes to Natasha Denona, it only is worth it to shop the Sephora savings event if you are a Rouge member. Because if you are a VIB or an insider, you can always save 15% on the Natasha Denona website using my code PATTY15. So you don't have to wait for a specific date to get a minimum of 15% off from the Natasha Denona website. The code will always work even on brand new items. However, if you're a VIB Rouge, it might have been worth it for you to wait for the Sephora savings event to get 20% off instead of 15% off the next few palettes I'm going to mention. The first one is the new Hyper Natural palette from Natasha Denona. This is the first time this one is going to be part of the Sephora savings event, and so it's also the first time that you can get it with a 20% off coupon. Now, this palette is not necessarily like my most favorite thing in the world. However, I do love the versatility of it and how travel friendly it is. As you can see, you have 3 bronzer colors, 2 blush colors, and 5 eyeshadow colors. You can also use the bronzer or blush on the eyes and combine it with the shimmer singles down here. Natasha created this palette for it to be her no makeup look. So every single one of the shimmer shades down here you can use as a one and done shadow, which I think is fabulous. If you watched the video where I first reviewed this one, I literally created a bunch of different looks with it because I did each eyeshadow shade individually as a one and done eyeshadow, sort of like it suggested. But then I also combined the shades with one another to create more looks with them. And I also did a look where I combined the shades with the bronzers up here. So if you haven't watched that video, I highly recommend that you do so because you'll see how versatile this palette is over there. If you do your makeup on the go often, this is definitely a must-have palette for you. So let's do the rest of the Natasha Denona products because I have a couple of more in this video. The next one is this beautiful thing right here. This is the Natasha Denona My Mini Dream palette. I love this one. It is super teeny tiny, it is travel friendly, and it has an absolutely stunning color story. I did videos with all of these palettes, so I'm going to refer you to those videos if you have further questions as to the capabilities of the products I'm suggesting. But this one is a color story that I truly love. I could wear colors like these on a daily basis. I love that we have a beautiful transition color, a mid-tone brown that you can darken up things with. Or if you really want to go smoky and sultry and sexy, you have this beautiful brown matte neutral shade right here to smoke everything up in the most beautiful way. Besides that, I also love the shimmers that she included in this one. Everything that she's done that is part of her My Dream collection is also my dream collection. Whenever she creates palettes for that collection, I'm like, this is made for me, okay? So this little quint right here, I took it with me to Italy when I went. I used it a bunch and it is honestly just magical. It's fantastic. And so I highly recommend it during the Sephora Spring Savings event, and I think it's one of the coolest things you can get at Sephora this time around. Last Natasha Denona recommendation, which I think is super hot to get during the Sephora Savings event, is of course the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude palette right here. This is, I think at this point, my most favorite midi palette Natasha Denona has ever made. You can go peachy, you can go neutral, you can go cool tone, you can go dark and smoky. It is such a fabulous color story. 10 out of 10. Highly recommend this one. I do of course have not one but two different videos with this palette here on my channel that you can check out if you want to get inspired and see like the types of looks that you can create with this one. I have the 5 looks 1 palette, of course, which I had so much fun creating. And then I have the original video where I first reviewed this palette with a couple of additional looks. This palette is a ton of fun. Not only does it have Natasha Denona's beautiful matte blendable creamy formula, but it also has some really spectacular shimmer shades that make your eyes totally sparkle. Take a look right there. Love this palette so much. And so if you are a rouge and you can get it with a 20% off discount, that is fabulous. Otherwise, get it with a 15% off from the Natasha Denona website, and you will have zero regrets. This is up there with some of my most favorite Natasha Denona palettes that Natasha has ever made. Let's talk about the fabulous shimmer in the center of my eyelids and what palette it came from. And this is not the first time this palette is going to be part of the Sephora Savings event, but this is my last most favorite palette Anastasia has launched. I'm talking about the Cosmos palette. I believe this was spring last year. So it was at the Sephora Savings event in the fall for the first time, and this is its second time being discounted like that. Take a look right here at the color story of this one. I think it is absolutely fabulous. It has the most stunning matte shades right here. It has this beautiful Space Dust Neutral. And then you have Comet and Mars, which are the warm kind of transition shade and the warm smoky shade, or Eclipse and Dark Matter, which are the cool tone mid-tone shade and the cool toned dark shade. So that's the way I like to combine my mattes: transition mid-tone smoky or transition mid-tone smoky. And then whenever I do that, I combine those mattes with any of the fabulous shimmer duochrome shades that this palette has in it. The shade I'm wearing specifically today is the shade Quasar right here, which is one of my favorites. It's a beautiful shifty shade. It's got blue and green, and it's got gold of course as well. Supernova, Sun, and Supercluster are some other of my favorite shimmer shades from this palette. And Anastasia doesn't do sales often. Sephora only does sales twice a year. So with this palette being available at Sephora right now, it is a fantastic time to get your hands on it. It is just such a multifunctional, beautiful, glamorous palette. I love it. I do have videos on this one, of course, as well. I have a 5 looks 1 palette, which you definitely need to check out if you're interested. Because this palette, having the color story that it has, I feel like there is a lot of versatility in the looks that you can create with it. And then I do also have my original review video where I tried it for the first time, and I had a lot of fun creating looks for that one as well. Let's get into some Huda Beauty, and I have a couple of palettes that I want to suggest from Huda. My latest Obsessions palette, that is an obsession of mine from Huda, is not probably one that's on your radar because I don't feel like a lot of people talk about this one, but me personally, I love it, okay? It is this beautiful thing right here, the Cool Matte Obsessions from Huda, and it is a rosy, beautiful color story with stunning cool tones in it. This Obsessions palette has some of the best matte formulas Huda Beauty has ever created. Obsessions palettes are not expensive, and you can get them with a discount at Sephora during the Sephora Spring Savings event. If you, like me, are into romantic, rosy color stories and you have not tried this matte palette right here, you absolutely have to. I do have a video up on my channel where I first reviewed this one, and it also came with a warm one. The warm one, I'm not into super warm shades lately, but it also has amazing performance. But this one here has quickly become one of my most favorite Obsessions palettes that Huda has ever launched. And so I highly recommend that you get your hands on this one if you're interested during the Sephora Savings events. The other Huda Beauty palette I'm recommending is the one that came out last fall, the Pretty Grunge palette from Huda. This one is the it girl right now. It has all of the beautiful neutral to cool tone shades. It has wonderful silver and pewter sparkles. I love that it also has a few shades that are a little bit warmer on this side, a few shades that are a little bit more purpley pinky on this side. You can create some fabulous looks with this one. Check out the 5 Looks 1 palette that I created with it. If you want additional looks to this one, I do also have my original video where I first reviewed it, and I think it's a fabulous palette. Huda never disappoints me with her bigger palette releases. She always has one per year, always during the fall time, and I'm always a fan of it. So this one here is the latest one. It came out last fall. You were able to get it during the fall savings event, but in case you didn't get your hands on it yet, the Sephora Spring Savings event is definitely the best time to grab your hands on some discounted Huda palettes, and I think this one is fabulous, so I love it and I highly recommend it. I've shown you 9 palettes so far, and I scouted the Sephora website for 10 palettes to recommend to you that I thought were the hottest during the Sephora savings event. Now the 10th one I want to mention is not a palette that I have yet, because I am waiting for the Sephora savings event to purchase it myself, and that is the new Too Faced Mini The Natural Nudes palette. I'm going to add a picture of them right here. There's a cool tone version and a more neutral to warm tone version. I'm honestly looking forward to trying both of them. I think these are hot at Sephora because they just launched. I'm not saying that they have the best quality or anything, because I have not tried them myself yet, but because I personally am very interested in trying them, I figured a lot of you would probably also be very interested in getting your hands on these. They look like perfect everyday travel-friendly palettes. What is not to love, right? So I personally will be picking these up during the Sephora savings event, and I thought a few of you might do the same. For some reason, these are not available locally to me. I have to order them online. I don't know if that's everywhere. You guys let me know. But those are my 10th and last recommendation for today's video. If you guys are interested in trying any of the palettes I mentioned today, please check them out using the links I'm leaving you down in the description box below. And if you just further want to research them, definitely check out all of the videos I mentioned. I have done content with all of these except for the new ones. And so I really hope that that content is helpful in your decision to see if you want to purchase any of these palettes or not. If you guys liked today's video, don't forget to please give it a thumbs up before you leave. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please don't leave without subscribing. I love you all so much. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you back in the next video. Bye.